afternoon, everybody. My name is David Donahue. I'm the founder of the ADU University, and this is our Ask a Pro webinar series. And I have to tell you, I've been watching this gentleman for more than a couple of years, and Joseph Peretz, who is the co-founder of Neo Builds. Did I say that correctly?
Neo Builders.
Neo Builders. He specializes in garage conversions, which is the #1 type of accessory dwelling unit being built in the state of California, which is basically the entire country. So welcome, Joseph.
Hey guys, thanks for having me, David. Love the videos, Jumpstart ADU University. You do a really good job. You're happen to be my neighbor in Burbank. We're down in Los Angeles, so we close, kind of far, different cities.
Very close. I think it's fantastic. So we're going to spend about 60, 90 minutes, however much time Joseph has. I know he's really busy with all the projects he has going on. So just to start, some best practices. We are on Zoom. So if you are on Zoom, please put in your questions either into the chat or the Q&A. We'll be able to see them. It doesn't matter. If you are watching this or listening to it, to the recording, there's always going to be some links. I'll have them for myself. I'll have them for Joseph, and we're going to be able to get back to you, because the bottom line thing that Joseph and I want you to do is to build your ADU. We want to dispel the myths. We want to take away that shroud, that cloud of misconception and all the sort of false information that's out there. No, you can't do it for $90 a square foot, and it takes a little bit more time. And I think we're going to be able to kind of talk about that, about it takes a little bit of time with Joseph and his perspective, because he's different, because not only is he helping homeowners do garage conversions, you're doing something really unique, which you are creating content and courses, and you have classes and tons of information on how a homeowner could do it themselves.
Right, David. Thanks for bringing that up. Neo Builders has built around 60 ADUs in the last 2 to 3 years. Starting from garage conversions to new construction. Most of them are garage conversions. But last year in the summer, I brought a camera crew on site every single day for 90 days to videotape the entire process of the building of the ADU. It was a garage conversion, 360 square feet. There's over 20 videos on YouTube and even more on my course that go through every single step of the construction, from demo to foundation to electrical to plumbing to HVAC to drywall to insulation. Every single step of the construction. We do tips and tricks. We do best practices, where to buy the materials, how much to buy the materials, how much to spend on labor. All of these things are on video on YouTube for free, more in detail on my course. So I'm excited to have done that, and I'm excited to show other people that content. And of course, content on the daily, on Instagram, on Facebook, on YouTube. I post a lot of the finished ADUs, and they do really well. So, touring an ADU that's 500 square feet or touring an ADU that's 800 square feet. I have probably 15 videos on YouTube, and they're doing pretty well.
And thank you. We're going to dive into a little bit more on what you said, a little bit more, a little bit later on. So stay with us if you're with us. And if you're watching, don't go away. The one thing that I wanted to kind of spend a little bit of time on, because you as a builder who's done so many of them, you're actually in the daily grind. You're talking to people on the daily. You're working with them, the homeowners, to kind of get them in through that door, okay, I want to do it, but I don't know how to do it. And I want to kind of take that 30,000 foot look in the air for that homeowner who's a little bit tentative of it. They don't really know what it's going to cost or what it's going to be involved, but they know they need it. They need it for a family member, or they want to have some additional income, because gosh knows we all need some more income, and we'd love to have it. When you are talking to a homeowner, what are some of the initial conversations, typical initial conversations you're having with them?
Sure. I try to be upfront as much as possible with the homeowner, because it's a long process, it's a lot of money, and it's a big decision. So first and foremost, just have that conversation on what an ADU looks like, why they're building an ADU, who's going to be living in it short term, who's going to be living in it long term, what are their 5-year goals for their house, what are their 10-year goals for the house. I talk a lot about what type of loan they have on their existing house, how much their house is worth. It's been an unpopular it's been unpopular, and I've said it, that I don't really build ADUs when the house is worth less than $700,000. It's because that I build in LA. So I just don't like when people call me and they say that they want to spend $200,000 or $300,000 on a new construction build out when their whole house is worth $500,000. So a lot of times I go into the nitty gritty of like, how much is your house worth? What is it going to be worth after the ADU is done? What do you think it's going to cost? What do you think it's going to be appraised at? And we have those conversations. Those are all the financial questions. And then on the flip side, we have that conversation of the emotional conversation. Who's going to live here? Is it going to be your aging parents? Is it going to be loved ones? Is it going to be children? And then if it's aging parents, most of the time I tell them just build it. It's okay. Whatever it costs. You will definitely save money on putting your parents in different types of housing, and you'll have them very close to you. So I think it's a twofold, right? It's a financial question. That's always, I'm really, really specific with the numbers. But then once it gets into emotional decision, I say any sort of anything that's emotional, anything that has to do with parents or elders or loved ones, no money or no ROI is going to trump having them next to your house.
Well, absolutely. And I agree with that because as people who might have seen or watched these webinars, they know that I moved my father-in-law, who's 88 years old in just a couple weeks. He's 87 now. He's going to be 88 in the end of the September. And this is September 2023. And you're right. It does kind of trump it. We spent a ton of money to build the ADU. You know, we're fortunate to be in Burbank, where our initial intent was to rent it out. So we kind of had a budget, you know, right around 250,000. Well, once we found out that, you know, Chuck was going to move in, we're a whole lot closer to 300 once we got done kind of figuring it out. When people are talking to you and they're trying to get an idea of doing a garage conversion, because it's my opinion that garage conversions are a lot less expensive. They're not 250 to 300 and change when they have an existing structure. And so that's what my opinion is, that the people are doing the most, and why they're doing those the most is because they're significantly less expensive. Is that your experience?
Yeah, they're significantly cheaper, but they're also significantly faster, right? So we were talking about permits before we got on the call. I can get an ADU permit in Burbank designed and permitted in 6 to 9 months. I can get an ADU garage conversion attached in the front, permitted in LA City in 2 weeks, in 10 days. Wow. So it's just going to be depending on that city, on that location, right? So I'll break down the timeline for the garage conversion. The garage conversion is usually the easiest to get permitted, right? Some cities take 2 to 3 weeks, some cities take 2 to 3 months, but in general, there's not really a problem. There's no problem with height. There's no problem with foundation. There's no problem with walls. You know, if you know where your window schedules are going to be, there's really no problem. There's no fighting with the city and back and forth and say, you can't do this. There's no going through planning. It's just going straight through building and safety. And then when it comes down to pricing, and then that's the plans. Much easier to get permitted than a new structure. Because when you do a new structure, you have to tell the city what the height is going to be. They'll have some issues with that. What the location is going to be. Now it's a new structure that wasn't there before. Do we have to do boundary surveys? What do we have to do with the plumbing? They're going to ask me. They're going to ask the architect. They're going to ask the engineer. Sometimes we have to bring in different engineers, mechanical engineers, sure, structural engineers. There's just so much that has to do with a new structure that inevitably it takes longer than a structure that's already there that you want to convert. And then when it comes down to money, I mean, look, we're bidding ADU garage conversions that are detached today anywhere between $130,000 and $180,000. I think there's 3 major things that I look at pricing when it comes to garage conversions. I look at the existing structure, which basically includes the existing foundation, the existing stucco or the existing walls, the existing roof line. So that's the existing structure. I look at the foundation. I want to see, do I have to remove all of the concrete in the slab, or is the slab in pretty good shape? Do we have a stem wall, or do we have a stem wall? How big the stem wall is? Do we have stucco or siding? Is it water damaged? Isn't it in good shape? Are there already windows, or are we going to break all of the stucco? What type of roof do we have? Do we have a gable roof, A-frame roof? Do we have a flat roof, a parapet roof? These are all going to be questions that I just look at really quick and I can answer them and I can explain to the homeowner. Okay, you have a 1928 garage that has a flat roof that's falling apart. The
Right.
stucco is water damage and you have no stem walls. This is going to be a very expensive budget. Or you have a valley house, Los Angeles in the valley, all the garages are the same. They're all 2x4 walls. They're all 2x6 roof rafters. They're all 2x8 ridge beams. The stucco looks good. All the stem walls are 6 inches. This is a really easy project. So those are the main things that I look at a garage before I start construction. As I start construction, I like to look at what are the size of the kitchen, what are the size of the bathroom. Are we doing a really luxurious build out? What do you guys want for the windows? How much electricity? What do you guys want with plumbing? Some of the harder questions that we have to kind of, I give my homeowners an Excel sheet of 50 line items. That's honestly, it's an ever growing Excel sheet. I
was going to say 50 is kind of short.
It's an ever growing Excel sheet. I just had a new question. One of my homeowners, I put the AC condenser on a plastic pad, and he said, hey, I was thinking that we do a concrete pad. And I was like, yeah, I've done concrete pad before, but it cost me $250 and 2 hours labor. So I put a plastic one. He's like, oh, do you mind doing a concrete one? And ever growing Excel sheet. Now I got to put, do you want a plastic one or do you want a concrete one? But I mean, we look at the inside of it, right? How luxurious do we want it?
Right.
And then we have to look at the outside, right? The outside is the panel. Do we have an existing panel? Is it already upgraded? Do we have to relocate it or is it in a good location? What about the gas line? What about the water line?
Right.
How far is the ADU? Can we get into the ADU to the garage really easily? All of these questions come into the garage conversion question.
Here's one I have, and you touched on it because I always think it's one of the harder ones to kind of deal with. And I always talk to people that they need to, if they're wanting to do a garage conversion, the number one thing that they got to look of many, but the top is, what does that foundation look like? Because those concrete slabs, particularly in Burbank, these things were built in the 1930s. And so how do you start that evaluation process to say, yeah, we're going to have to like bust the majority of it out?
Sure. So I'm not an engineer, but this is just the way I was taught. First, you look at the roof. What type of roof do you have and where is the roof supported? Most roofs, either have 2 points or 4 points. Depending on those points, those are where all of the pressure is going onto the walls. Once you have the walls, you're going to have the way that we built walls are 2x4s or 2x6s, and you have a top plate here and you have a bottom plate here. The real question is that bottom plate. On the bottom of the roof, on the bottom of the walls, on the bottom of all the wood. They basically support the entire wall and the entire roof. What size is this? Is this sitting on slab or is it sitting raised? Is that concrete footing 2 inches, 4 inches in width? How deep is it?
Right. And how do you determine that?
Right. So then there's 2 main ways. The first is I'll take a drill right into the bottom plate. And I'll just drill into it and to see until I get into soil. That is sometimes harder, sometimes easier. Just depends on if sometimes they have drywall and I don't want to open up drywall and to make a mess. Sometimes you don't have enough space for the drill. That's number one. Number two is you go down into the corner from the exterior. You go into the corner and you just start digging on one of the corners and you'll see 2 types of footings. Either you'll see a T footing and you can get to the T pretty easily, but you have to dig on the outside of the T to see how deep it is. Or sometimes it will go straight down, right? 2 inches
Right.
by 4 inches by 6 inches by 8 inches. After like 3 or 4 swings on your shovel, you'll see where it goes.
Got it.
And anything over 2 inches usually works out pretty well. It's only if it's just sitting on the slab. If your bottom plate is just sitting on the slab, that is the main issue. But if it's raised by anything 2, 8, 4, 6 inches, it's fine.
Of the bottom plates.
The bottom plates don't sit on the slab. They sit
Okay.
on a footing.
Got it. Okay. So then you are going to be able to have your crews do it, or you're going to be able to have a sub come out there, do the drilling, do the dig out of the corner, and quickly be able to determine what direction you're going to be going, because that's a pretty big line item as far as cost. If you can use the existing foundation or the existing slab, as opposed to having to basically dig out and pour new.
Sure. It's not so much the slab. You said it right. It's the existing foundation. The
Mhm.
existing slab, I break anyway, right? I trench through it for the shower. for the sewer line, for the toilet, for the kitchen. I trench through a lot of it. Sometimes I talk about the slab just because it's so broken up or it's so damaged that I really have to remove the entire slab and put it on. But most of the time, the slab is fine.
Got it. And I think that, well, that's important for people to understand is that when you're doing a garage conversion, there are a lot of sort of people think that, oh, hey, there's a concrete pad that's there. And if it's not, in a million pieces, it's probably good. But that's not always the case because that foundation is going to have to support the load of the new construction, correct?
Yeah, it's a big one. And slab does not equal foundation.
No, and you also touched on the kitchen and the electrical and the plumbing and having to do the upgrades and how much they want to kind of upgrade it. And I think that you also said it in the very beginning, it's like, what are they going to use it for? Particularly if it's going to be for a family member, there are things that, they may want. I mean, maybe it's a curbless or maybe a very low threshold to get into the shower. And maybe they want to have a bench for mom or dad to be able to sit on because, and they need to have grab bars. So those are additional kind of costs, but are just it's money well spent to kind of incorporate those safety features for your aging parent. And those are things I imagine you're going to be able to easily address with people.
Yeah, so those things are small, right? Like I don't even like to go into it in the beginning on handlebar. I mean, of course, who's going to live here? Are they going to be in a wheelchair? Are they going to be in a wheelchair in the next 10 years? Those are for sure questions that I ask. But it's not so much about the type of tile or the type of glass or the type of handle or the type of landing. Those are not really the questions. The bigger questions are, in general, is this going to be a custom piece with a bunch of custom items, or is this going to be more cookie cutter, or is this going to be a very budget friendly, and then we're doing prefabricated showers that we're just sticking on that cost $1,500 instead of putting tile and concrete and tile.
So are you talking builder? Because I love the word builder grade.
Less than builder grade. Again, I've built ADUs that prefabricated kitchens, prefabricated bathrooms and showers, everything from Home Depot and Lowe's, $1.50 a square foot on flooring, $2.50 a square foot on tile, the most basic. And we've done that, been there, done that. In 2019, we built 10 ADUs for one investor that were all very, very basic. But I mean, I look at Facebook Marketplace all the time for these ADUs that are rented, and these guys just don't rent out as good as the luxury build out. So that's why I don't talk about it too much, because the difference between a builder grade ADU on the interior, at least, and a really luxurious build out is probably in the $20,000 to $25,000 range, right? So
the differences between them.
That's the difference. The bigger question is what else are we doing on this property except an ADU? So I bring up the panel. Do we have to upgrade the panel and relocate that panel? That could be a $4,000 to $12,000 line item. If it's an attached garage or it's a detached garage, right? Homeowners, do you need a new roof on the ADU garage conversion? Also, some homeowners go crazy. Oh, we're already doing the roof on the garage. Let's do the roof on the entire house. Then it ends up being another $10,000 line item. Oh, we're breaking a 2-foot trench from the garage down the driveway onto the house. And then some homeowners tell me, hey, I didn't like my driveway before. Now I really don't like my driveway. I want a new driveway. And it's 2,000 square feet of driveway, or it's a 1,200 square feet of driveway. And now I got to demo this whole entire driveway and charge $10,000, $15,000, $20,000
easily.
There's a lot of question marks that come with ADUs, and because people have contractors on site, they all of a sudden want bids on every single little thing. And when you start doing every single little thing, these projects get much more expensive.
And I think that that's kind of par for the course, because people are now, they have the time and the intention. They've never had a conversation with a contractor, somebody who's going to be doing these things, and you're there. I know that we had a lot of things that kind of came up, and to what you just said, to that point of a new roof, not only did we we took off our existing roof. It was, maybe 20 years old, no problems with it, but it was like a tan color. So we wanted to match that kind of that slate gray color that we put on our ADU. And yes, it's expensive, but we were happy, but we were able to kind of coordinate it so it wasn't it didn't kind of delay anything, but we were, hey, let's kind of we got excited with the process, like you said. So I agree 100% with your comment that people are going to change things. And so to Joseph's point, it's like they may say, hey, it's going to be 130, 180,000. That's for the ADU. You have to kind of keep in mind. You may all of a sudden want to go and start throwing some line items on there. And you may want to say, hey, I want to go luxury as opposed to, things from a big box store.
Right.
And I think that that's good to do. So one of the things I wanted to ask you about are timelines. You touched on it when you were talking about if you go to the city of LA, you might be able to get an existing garage conversion permitted in 2 weeks. I think that's fantastic.
So I'll talk about permits really quick, at least for the garage conversions of the cities I know. I work in a couple of major cities. I work in city of LA, LA County, Culver City, Burbank and Glendale and Pasadena just a bit, and West Hollywood, Beverly Hills. So we'll talk about city of LA and LA County really quick, just so everyone understands. City of LA garage conversions can take 2 weeks if you have no DWP, right? So when you submit plans, I'll come over to your house and I will look at a garage and we will talk about a floor plan. On the same day, I'll draw up on my iPad or hand draw your floor plans. I'll give you 1 or 2 options of what I think that should happen. You approve one of them or you approve both of them. I'll go back to my computer. I'll draw up the floor plans myself and I'll send it to you via email. If you can get back to me in 1 of 2 days telling me, hey, I want a bigger window here, or I want this bathroom a little bit bigger, or I like it how it is, or, let's change this and this and this, and you give me some good instructions, I'll get back to you the next day. I have to submit for Title 24. It takes around 3 days to submit for Title 24. My plan sheets are already pretty much done. So it takes me really only like 3 to 4 hours to do a full set of plans, maybe a day if I have other things to do. And then I'm ready to submit. So I could be ready to submit in a week, even less if the homeowner is fast and efficient. Submitting it to the city, we go through planning, zoning, building and safety. We go through a bunch of different clearances. For the most part, today in city of LA, everything goes by relatively quick. I'm talking about getting back your plans in 2, maybe 3 weeks. I'm talking about all of the clearances can get done in 1 hour, maybe 1 day. And which ends up meaning that if you don't have any corrections on your first sheet and you have no big clearances, you could get a permit done in 2 weeks. If, like most people, you have corrections on the first round, then you can resubmit, and then it takes another 2 weeks. It will be a month. The biggest issue today in city of LA is DWP. DWP, if you have a pole or you have it's called a DWP easement, or construction within 5 feet away from a DWP pole, you can wait legitimately 4 months.
Wow.
Before that clearance gets done. It's crazy.
It's not the city, it's the utility company, Department of Water and Power.
The DWP, Department of Water and Power, has to give a clearance on the ADU construction within 5 feet away from a pole. If you have an ADU garage conversion, I just had it, right? I had it in April and I kept making a bunch of jokes on it. There was 2 houses, 2 cousins, both wanted to build an ADU. They're on the same street, okay? They're both on Bluebell. One is 7600 Bluebell and change, and one is 7500 Bluebell, right? They're 100 houses away. And one, I got a permit in 3 weeks. One, I got a permit in 4 months. They're the exact same project. One had an easement, and they're in exactly the same house. They're same location. They're 100 houses away. And one, we got a permit in 3 weeks. One, we got a permit in 4 months. They are brothers. They made the same decisions under the same conversation, under the same emails. They pay me at the same time. It's crazy. But it's DWP. So that it is what it is. So that's city of LA. When it comes to LA County, you have to go through the Epic LA system. Epic LA today is miserable. I would suggest waiting 4 to 6 months on anything that goes through Epic LA. The problem with Epic LA is everything goes down like a pyramid, right? And you have to do everything in order. When it comes to city of LA, you get one plan checker.
Right.
You send all your plans to him. You send all the questions to him. You send all the clearances to him. You pay. He tells you when to pay, or you tell I paid via email, one email, maybe an email chain of 10 to 15 emails, but it's one email chain. With Epic LA, it's dozens of email chains. And the problem is you have to go in order. So it would be like the last possible thing. And they'll tell you, oh, by the way, now you have to get your water flow test. And water flow test takes 3 weeks in La Puente. And so it's like, you're already done. You've already been here for 6 months and no one told you to do a water test. And now you got to do a water test.
So let me ask you a question.
water-
Are you, because you mentioned just a moment ago that you're doing a lot of the initial consultation, kind of the rough drawing, and you're doing, that, okay, I'm going to start submitting. So when you talk about Epic LA, are you using a coordinator, or is this all kind of under your kind of jurisdiction, your control?
Yeah, I mean, I have basically 2 people under me for the plans. So I have Neo Designs. So Neo Designs and Neo Builders. Neo Builders Inc. is a construction company. Neo Design, for the sake of this conversation, is we do designs for ADUs and we permit run. I'll take on more projects under Neo Design than Neo Builders. I'll cherry pick my construction projects. I won't do everyone I do designs for. And I'll do designs from basically at this point from San Diego to San Francisco, if the project is right, and if I can get out there and if we agree on anything. And I have 2 people under me, right? So I have Olivia, and Olivia basically will do all the plans and we'll draw them and we'll work on them. And then I have 1 or 2 runners that will help me at any given time go through the project, send emails to the city, wait on hold with the water department, potentially go down to the city and pick up plans if they're not online. It just depends on the city, depends on the flow. I do very well in Culver City. I do very well in Thousand Oaks. I do very well in Simi Valley. I don't do as well in LA County, but it's an evolving game. It's always evolving and always things are changing.
And when you say you don't do as well, is that because of the complexities and just the way that LA County has kind of structured their ADU programs? It's just more difficult and time consuming?
I think it's just time consuming. I don't think it's more difficult or less difficult. I mean, it's the same things that we need in Thousand Oaks and Culver City that we need in La Puente or LA County. It's the same things. It's just harder to get those things, right? So when we talk about a water flow test, in Thousand Oaks, you can call fire department, you can call the water department. They will answer the phone on the first 2 rings. LA County, you can be on hold for a week.
Wow. So, and LA County is a massive jurisdiction. I mean, it's huge.
Yeah. And there's
so
different cities in LA County. So some cities are much easier than other cities.
Right. Burbank is in LA County.
Yeah.
But we have our own planning department. But if you're talking unincorporated areas of LA County, and there are a lot of them, and that's typically where you might find, a little bit larger footprint of property. You may, as opposed to, just under 7,000 square foot lot for what we have, you may be talking 10,000 square foot lots in other areas of LA County. And if it's going to be difficult to kind of go through that, I think that it's important that people understand that, yes, the state of California has all these regulations to make it easier to do whatever they need to, but LA County is still could kind of drag their feet, and they really don't have as up-to-date a system as what you'd really like to see, do they?
I mean, it's pros and cons, right? We can't change the system. We can only work in the system. Changing the system at this point, they've changed the system from at least in 2018, at least twice that I've seen. Both times it just gets better and better. So, I don't want this call to be, I hate LA County, don't build an ADU in LA County. It's more, don't expect a permit in 2 weeks, expect a permit in 4 months. It's okay.
Right. And again, like as I prefaced in the very beginning, we want you to do an ADU. And even though, I think Joseph said, 2 weeks in the city of LA to get a permit through, it's because of how streamlined they are, that they have systems that are put in place that allow for that. And that's great. But in LA County, like, we don't want to trash on them, but we want to kind of convey a proper expectation that it can be that much longer. And when you throw in DWP and other utilities, it's not that, Neo Builds or Neo Designs, your companies are going to be taking that period of time to do it. It's the fact that is just what the process is. with those different jurisdictions, with those different counties throughout the state of California, they're all different. And if it takes 6 months, that's just what it is. And I think you said that very well. It's just what it is. I will share that 6 months will go by in the blink of an eye when you're talking construction, because these are expensive, they're involved, they're kind of intense. They can be, not always. But for us, it was a little bit intense. And so the time goes by really quickly. Don't let that hold you up from doing it. Oh, I needed it done quicker. Doesn't matter. You live where you live and you want to do it for whether it's rental or most people for family, just start it and just doing it, because the quickest thing that's going to happen is that Joseph and with his design team is going to be able to get you your design done in a couple weeks, or usually mostly a lot less.
Yeah, I mean, so architectural submittals, plan check, all of that is incorporated in the first step. The second step is the construction, right? So that first step, I try as hard as possible to get them a permit or to get them RTI, which is ready to issue. And then Neo Builders Inc. will come in and will bid out the project. And when you talk about how efficient the cost is, I mean, we're doing these ADUs at this point in the end of 2023 for $140,000 to $160,000. I don't really care at this point, I feel, on how big the garage is, as long as it's not an extreme amount. I mean, I just bid a 360 square foot ADU for more than a 440 square foot ADU garage conversion, just because of the shape and the existing garage, the existing foundation, the existing roof, and the existing stucco on the 360 compared to everything on the 400 square foot one was much nicer.
And I think that that's important. I think most people understand that they're not all the same. It's not cookie cutter. You have different sort of layouts of that garage. You have different sort of exterior sidings or finishes that you have to it to kind of match the primary. And there's just different factors. And I think I think most people are going to understand that. The part that I wanted to kind of talk on next are misconceptions. You've done enough of these. You've talked to so many people. If you had 60 plus projects, you probably talked to hundreds of people that are just kind of, kicking the tires. So when you're talking to somebody, they're like, hey, Joseph, I want to do this for whatever reason. What are some of the things where you're like going, okay, I needed to share this with you. And they're like, well, I didn't know that, or I didn't understand it. What would you say are the most common misconceptions?
Sure. I think the first thing is always cost, because I think that completely derails the project. I think there's a big chunk of people, I think with your education and my education, a lot of people's education today from the ADU community, people know the cost a lot more, but I think cost is a huge one. It derails a project, because if I tell someone it's going to cost them $150K and they think that it's going to cost them $20,000 to $80,000, that phone call is over. It doesn't matter, because they were expecting something completely different. That's one main thing. I think another main thing is overbuilding, right? So I'm a big fan of do as little as possible or do as much as possible. And that ends up being usually just do the garage conversion or build multiple units, that one is a 1,200 square foot and one is an 800 square foot and one is a junior ADU. So I'm like an all or nothing kind of guy. And I think a lot of misconceptions are with that price, or with that, can I do it? Or with, I don't want to do this unless I can do A, B, and C, or how do I do this without A, B, and C? So I think a lot of the rules are important, right? The height limitation is still important. Parking is now not as important, but it was important. A lot of things are very important when it comes to, can I do this? Can I do this specific project on my specific property in the next 2 to 3 years without breaking the bank?
Yeah, and I think you're right. Can you do it within their budget and their ideal kind of timeline? I know one of the things that I kind of get from people, and you've seen it on social media because we're both very active, and I will talk about that in a minute about what you're doing in your presence, because I think that's important for people who are really trying to understand what they can do. But one of the things that I find kind of interesting is that some people think or expect that this should be the price. and they have no experience in construction, but they've seen other people kind of price it. And I want to kind of stress this one particular point is that unless you're dealing with somebody who's actually building, they don't know what they're necessarily talking about. You need to have a conversation with somebody that is actually doing the construction, doing the permitting, doing the design, and delivering for clients all over the place. That is a professional, and that's what NeoBuild, NeoDesign offers. So again, if you're here with us live, thank you very much for being here. If you're watching this or listening to this in the future, be very careful about who you engage and who you talk to. And you need to be able to kind of know that and have trust in that person and in that company. And I think that, Joseph, you started something very early on, before I think just about anybody did. And that was education for do-it-yourselfers. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I mean, the course and just all the education in the beginning was supposed to explain how hard our job was as contractors. That was always the running joke with me and my brother. I think it's evolved since then, right? And I think it's, can you do my job? Can you be a contractor? Can you be a project manager? Yes, you probably can. We could teach you a lot of what we know. It's, do you have time? Do you have the patience to get it done at a specific amount of time? And also, if you mess up, are you going to be able to bounce back? And can you afford the mess ups? Because the mess ups in my line of work are $3,000 to $10,000 questions. And I joke, I still make mistakes. And that cost me $3,000. And I'm sitting there on my cell phone in the middle of the night, like, wow, I just made a $3,000 mistake, you know? So, I mean, we're teaching homeowners how to build ADUs. And what that basically means is there's two kind of options. The first option is really do it yourself. And the course is going to explain to you every single step of the process, and tips and tricks of the process, and interviews with other contractors that are licensed in that trade for every single part of the process. But at the end of the day, you know, if this is your first project, I don't think you really should do it as an owner builder. If you've done other construction projects, or if you've done other remodels or other flips, then maybe you can do it as an owner builder. The first part of it is really owner builder. It's really focused more for homeowners that want to do it themselves and not really mess up. And then there's a lot more consultancy with me.
Right.
That costs more, but I'm on the phone with them once a week, making sure they have all their subs, making sure they have all of their labor, making sure that no one is charging them too much, looking at their proposals from all of these subs, making sure their material list is there and they're not missing material.
So let's take, I want to pause on that because that's a very important point. So you touched, I think I probably should not have kind of laid it out quite in this order, DIY. I should have sort of prefaced this, that when you're looking at doing a construction project, I apologize for backing up a little bit here, Joseph. You have a general contractor that's going to do everything for you. NeoBuilds in coordination with NeoDesigns is going to then do everything for you. Design, permitting, building, contracting to get it all done. That's pretty much, I would call it a white glove or a concierge service. That's what I think a full GC build is. And that's where you're earning your percentage, because if you're hiring subs, you're going to see typically on bids, this is how much the percentage is. And that's why, and you get paid to do what you do. And there's also a lot of other issues that I don't need to bore people with, like workers' comp insurance and general liability. There's a mountain of things that make it very difficult and expensive to do that in the state of California. So under having a full GC build, you have owner builder. And I think that's what you were touching on with the owner builders, where you could have somebody who says, no, I want to grab those contractors. I want to do that coordination. And were you saying that you will be kind of like a project coordinator, not necessarily a general contractor, but maybe saying, hey, Mr. Homeowner or Mrs. Homeowner, here's what you need to do and how you need to do it. And I don't want you to talk about Gantt charts, but that's kind of what you're doing. You're acting as that step 1, step 2, step 3.
Yeah, so I had, again, 2 friends in San Diego. They purchased the course last year. I helped them with their plans and their permits as much as I could, but they hired a different architect. So again, I was just there looking. We were talking once a month, just looking at their plans, making sure, me touching base with them. Then it came to their construction. Their cousin does construction. Their cousin was going to help them. So, okay, so I'm here to help them. Right, day one of demo, everything looked good. I got a FaceTime from them. I answered their questions, whatever it was. Foundation inspection went well. Framing inspection didn't pass. They sent me a bunch of pictures on their framing. I told them, I circled on a red marker what I didn't like. And then they went down to the city inspector. The city inspector had their inspections. It was basically the same question. Okay, now we fire our framer. Let's go find a new framer. Send a message on Facebook to find framers in San Diego. Boom, found a framer, got him a framer. Next, their plumbing, I think, went really well. Their electrical really went well. Their HVAC, they got a really high number, but we didn't care at that point. Their drywall, there was an issue. There was some small issues, but I helped them with their kitchen. I helped them with their bathroom. They paid me per hour, right? So they purchased the course and then they paid me per hour. Most of it was scheduled hours, and most of it, and there was no emergency calls really. Here and there we had an emergency call, but for the sake of this conversation, I was a consultant for them. I think that's one service that the course does, right? So you go, you buy the course, you watch all the videos. If you need to talk to me and you want something very specific, okay, I'll charge you per hour and we can have that conversation because I already know your project, because you're coming to office hours. So if you're coming to office hours to learn, then I already know somewhat of your project, and we don't have a huge cohort of people. There might be 5 to 10 people in there. So I know your project. The other side of that course is not that concierge, not that consultancy. It's just a homeowner that wants to know just as much as their contractor. So they're watching these videos, but they hired a contractor. They hired a concierge service. They just want to be much more educated. They want to be more educated sometimes than their contractors. And they want to make sure to, when they get a $7,000 change order, to put it into the group or call me and say, hey group, hey Joseph, is this $7,000 electrical change order a good change order, or should I tell the contractor to lower it? So I think that's the bulk of it. I think we're seeing the bulk of the people in our course today more in that second section of, they purchase the course, they like me, they watch all the course materials. They're not planning on getting their contractor license, and this is the only ADU they're going to build, but they want to build it right and they want some support.
I think that you're touching again on a lot of things that I have some sort of a familiarization with, which is just trying to be comfortable and confident that the general contractor is doing what they should be doing. And I ran into those issues. I continue to run into those issues today, which is like, okay, the person I have a connection with, they seem nice, but can they do the work? And do I know that they're doing the work properly? I know and I understand a lot of things about construction, but I don't know it all. And so there are still trying to have these relationships, just from my perspective. And I can imagine from a homeowner who's never done this before, that just having that security and confidence of knowing that, yes, what their contractor is doing is the right thing. And so that's what your cohort and your classes do for, in that particular situation. They're going to be able to say, hey, Joseph, hey, other people, is this kind of online? Is it in line?
Yeah, I mean, I think the course is going to be really good for people that they want to learn, they want to be there, they want to save money, but they also want to do a good job. Because a lot of times I'll be the first person to write, I'm like, that's not enough money. You're getting either a great deal or you're missing something.
Or so they're going to surprise you with something later on, right? That's just going to hit you upside the head. Oh, you wanted water? Yeah. Oh, that connection, we didn't put that in. You just wanted us to build this thing. You didn't say anything about a certificate of occupancy. That's something different. Yeah. So I think this is all very helpful. And I want to kind of bring this all in, because we've been talking about a lot of things. What Joseph has and put in a system that offers to educate homeowners that want to, just kind of know that their general contractor is doing the work that they have bid to do. You're also offering programs where a homeowner who wants to kind of coordinate themselves to be an owner builder can do. And then you're also doing, which is a hyper dive, a really detailed dive, where you can then have content that helps people do it themselves, which is huge. Not recommended if you're not familiar with construction. You should not be trying to, cut concrete and make a connection into the sewer lateral in the street. that's not what you want to do as a DIY. You want to contract out because you could really have some big problems. And that's what I think is kind of different about what Joseph and his team are doing, is kind of having a lot of options so people can kind of pick and choose what is in their best interest.
Yeah. Mostly for garage conversions. I think it's the big one. It's the big one. It's the easiest one. It's the one that everyone has on their single family home in LA and in California. And that's the one I want to see much more of. So I'm not going to be the contractor, or I'm not going to be the company that builds every single garage conversion in California. But if I can help one homeowner in one city, save 5K and get their ADU much faster, I'm really happy with that.
What do you see yourself doing over the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years? What's your focus on?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think I'm going to be building ADUs for a long time. And I'm going to be expanding my construction business. Right now, I'm a local contractor. I mean, we're a local company. We're not super big. We tried to go super big with 4 crews, and it was really stressful. So I think we're going to stay local construction, small scale. I like to focus more on the course. I'd like to focus much more on content because I actually very much enjoy it. I'd like to open up potentially a pool company and potentially a roof company. One of them, I'm not sure which one. And I mean, big scale, like at this point, obviously I like to work with homeowners and I enjoy working with homeowners. I used to work a lot with investors, but there are 2 to 3 investors that want to build 40 plus ADUs. So that is something that I'm seriously working on right now. I'm very close to closing 100 ADUs in one region. So if that means that me and my family have to move there to build these things, I might do that. If it means that I have to subcontract all of them, I might do that. If it means that I have to go there, Monday through Friday and leave the wife at home, that's potentially what I'm going to do. So again, I think I'm still young, right? I think I'm a real baby and I can do so many different things. I'm getting married at the end of the year. So
Congratulations.
thank you. There's a lot coming for me and I'm excited to do everything. I'm still very young and very passionate about ADUs. I'm not going anywhere.
So you have to balance it out. I guess you're trying to figure out what is that direction to be able to do. Congratulations on the project, where you may have 100 of them to do, because I think that there are a lot of investors that are out there that want to know that they can trust somebody to execute the project.
Yeah.
And I think that that's also very difficult. And I think I think there's one thing that I enjoy about these Ask a Pro webinars and these conversations, particularly with someone such as yourself, is because you can kind of hear the insight, you can see, and I hope people can kind of gather that there is a lot of opportunity in accessory dwelling units. If you're a real estate agent, if you're a mortgage broker, if you're an investor, you're a multifamily home person who wants to add to their portfolio, there are endless opportunities with the accessory dwelling units, particularly with Senate Bill 9 that allows you to develop, at least, 3, if not 4 units on a single family residential property. That's huge. And then what we were talking about before we started recording, there's Assemblymember Ting's bill, which is 1033, which you may be able to separately sell an ADU. I'm not sure 100% how that's going to work, but the state of California is continuing to work on legislation to make ADUs more accessible and to get them more on the ground. Because like myself and a lot of people in California, I live in Burbank. We have a small single family house that was under 900 square feet, but we had, just under right around 6,000 square foot lot. And I had a huge backyard that I was just watering. I would water it. I'd watch the grass grow, and the landscaper, really great people, would come in and mow it, and it would grow again for years. Now I have a 734 square foot ADU. And my father-in-law, Chuck, lives back there. He lives like an OG. He's getting dinners cooked for him. He's getting driven around. So he's living life like, he's a king. And I think that we're happy for that. And but we have the intent that he's going to be able to stay there and age in place for as long as he can, as long as we can have them. And we feel blessed to be able to do that. After Chuck's is finished being in there, we know that in Burbank and in most places in Southern California, we're going to be able to rent that sucker out for top dollar. And that's going to be $3,400 a month of additional income. And that's going to be fantastic. If you're looking at doing a garage conversion, which Joseph just mentioned, 130, 180,000, city of LA, you're going to get permits done in right around 2 weeks, and you're going to build that sucker out in how long?
Fastest one I ever built was 6 weeks. I just built one right now in 11 weeks. I'm finishing up one right now. It's going to end up 10 weeks. The standard garage conversion, I do them so quickly now that if we don't make any changes to the original Excel sheet or the original design plan, I'm 9 weeks out, 10 weeks out.
And that's something I want to kind of people to kind of take and understand, that doing something in that short of a period of time is really unusual. That's not typical for most companies. Joseph is saying that he's kind of perfected the system. You can advise homeowners to say, hey, stay within these guidelines. Don't try to go outside them too much. And I'm going to be able to get this thing done in as quickly a time frame as possible, so that mom, dad, or a child, a kid can move in there. Or you can start renting that sucker out and getting that, $1,800 a month or whatever it is you can get. And I think that that's fantastic.
I've had 10 ADUs. In my last 10 ADUs, 6 of them have been pregnant. So it's actually, and you want to hear something crazy? 6 out of 6 are girls.
So they were pregnant. When they gave birth, all were girls.
Oh yeah, 6 out of 6. It's crazy. Out of my last 10 ADUs.
So if you want to have a girl, make sure you hire Joseph to convert your garage.
Basically, but because of that, I've now the last 6 ADUs, we've been on a time crunch the entire time, because they will be 3 months pregnant. All of these couples are 3 months pregnant. They'll call me. They'll be like, we need an ADU now. My mom is moving from Costa Rica or from Boston or from wherever they're moving in the world. And we have a 6-month timeline. And we need plans, we need permits, we need finished construction, we need everything done. And
mom said, I'm not going to be living in the spare room, having to go across the hall to go into a bathroom. I want it all contained. And I also want my own kitchen.
Basically. Woodbine, I just finished up, and the day of final inspection is the day she gave birth.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So it was fun.
Yeah, I would imagine you probably get a few calls going, hey, Joseph, when's this thing going to be done?
Yeah, all the time. Too many times.
So I know we're going to get close to our 1 hour, and I really appreciate your time. How do you communicate with your clients? Just a random thing that popped in my head, because my wife and I are doing some more construction because we wanted to have a little bit more activity in our lives with our bathroom. We're doing some work in our bathroom and our kitchen. And the contractor had a system called Builder Trend. So Builder Trend, you can kind of look at that. What system do you use? Or are you just kind of communicating because you're a little bit more hands-on with people? How are you kind of sharing timelines?
Shout out to Builder Trend. I hope they sponsor one of us. I've used them. I've tried to use them twice, but I think I'm going to get much more serious about it. They're really, really good software for contractors. I think I use multiple things. I think I have a text group with them that I'm very, very active. I have a WhatsApp group with, I have 2 text message groups, basically. One message group for chit chatting, one message group for final decisions. I have one email chain that is basically a very, very official email chain.
Right.
And then the rest of it is, I also have a WhatsApp group with clients and all of my contractors and anyone who needs to make big decisions. But that's about it. I mean, I do a lot of on the phone, I do a lot of text messages, and I do a lot of emails to them. Any software that I've tried to use hasn't done as well because I'm a lot more personable, and we try to get these things done really, really quick. And when you do these things really quick, we're building houses. When you're doing them this quick, you have to make really fast decisions. And when it comes to Builder Trends, when it comes to a lot of the software, we feel that we're putting into the system information. We're putting information in more than talking to the clients. And until they see that information, until they get back to us on that information, it takes a really long time compared to today. I texted my client, Jeff. 8:30 in the morning. Hey, we're having a meeting at 9 o'clock. It is what it is. Like, if you want this done this quick, you got to take my meetings at 9 o'clock, and I will be as attentive as the homeowner. I got two really different clients right now. One, his name is Jeff. He's pregnant. His wife is pregnant. He's on top of it. He's project managing it. One is Dan. He got a compliance letter. The city's making him build an ADU. Jeff has been the most attentive homeowner. He's kind of annoying and he's kind of on top of things, but every day he answers my text message, and every night he says good night. And it's every single day that we're talking, multiple times a day. And then I have Dan. I mean, be good to Dan. Dan, I feel like, doesn't really care about this ADU. I mean, I'm working away and I send him emails and I send him text message, and every answer is, yeah, Joseph, sounds good, whatever you think.
So compliance letter, you very quickly touched on that. So a compliance letter, as I understand them, is basically the city said, you have a structure that is not built to code.
Yeah, I say compliance letter, but the official term is notice of non-compliance. Right? You would get that notice in your mail. And for example, if you had a garage conversion, with it was an unpermitted garage conversion, and maybe someone did it in the 50s or 60s or last year. Someone complained, the city comes into your house, they see that it's non-permitted. That could be a non-permitted garage conversion. It could be a non-permitted sump pump. It could be a non-permitted a fence in your house that's more than 6 feet. It could be many things, but the city will give you two options. Number one, demo it and remove the entire thing and then pay a small fee and no harm, no foul. Or number two is convert it with permits, which basically means that you still have to pay the fee, and now you have to go out and get plans and permits to go get what you already have, and it's an as-built. So for example, if you have a 7-foot fence in the front of your house, they'll tell you demo it or cut it down to 6 feet, because you're not getting it for 7 feet. But if you have a garage conversion that was done without permits, the city will come in, they'll give you a $350 fine, and they'll tell you, hey, go get ADU permits. So
they basically want you to bring it up to code so it meets health and safety standards.
Basically, and that people are allowed to dwell in it.
And I think that's something that I think is important, and something we will kind of get close to wrap on, and then I want you to kind of have a minute for you to have any closing comments about what you're doing, what your programs are, because I really want people to take advantage of this, of what you offer. Is that the health and safety code issues really do protect the homeowner, because they are coming in and saying they're inspecting and making sure whatever it's the plumbing or electrical, gas connections, water connections have been done properly and to code, so there's not going to be a problem. If you as a homeowner are renting out an ADU and you're renting out something that's not built to code and you have an issue, let's say there's a fire or something happens where the person who is occupying it hurts themselves or loses property, and let's say, hey, guess what? There's an attorney that becomes involved and they find out that you were renting out something that was not built to the health and safety code, which was not permittable for permanent habitation, then you're going to be on the hook for a lot of money, and you could potentially lose hundreds of thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars, depending on the situation. So it's not, and a lot of people unfortunately do take that risk, but you really shouldn't. You should have it built to the health and safety code if you're going to be renting it out, so that you know that you have protection, that if there was something that happened, hey, your insurance is going to cover it. Because I'm kind of not very kind of linear in this kind of explanation, but to kind of wrap it up, if it is built and permitted, and you have insurance and there's a problem and you have coverage for that problem, then you're going to be made whole, relatively speaking. If it's not permitted and there's a problem, even if you have insurance, your insurance is not going to cover that because it's not permitted. So that was my little side. But Joseph, I want to give you the last moment just to kind of say, talk about anything you want to, Neil Build, Neil Designs, or whatever you would like to.
Sure. Thank you. Thanks for having me. I really enjoyed it. You gave a really good idea of what you should do if you have a non-permitted conversion. And ladies and gentlemen, do not today build an ADU or garage conversion unpermitted. Please do it with permits. If you have one, you can do whatever you want with it. There's obviously options for you, but today do not build without permits. My name is Joseph Peretz. Thank you so much for having me. I try to post a lot of content on YouTube. I have house tours and ADU tours that I've built. I also have 20 plus videos on how to build your own ADU garage conversion. That is all free on YouTube. I also have a paid course on josephperetz.com. So go to josephperetz.com. You can get a free 15-minute consultation with me. You can choose to do a paid consultation. That's $250 an hour today. You can also,
which is a great rate.
It's a great rate. I charge very little. I want to help homeowners. The 15-minute consultations, I'm still taking it. I want to help homeowners. Really, I do. The course is out there. The course is a little expensive, but there's always deals on getting the course. But again, the course is really to help you. And that's in general. I mean, follow my Facebook, follow my Instagram, call me if you want to build an ADU in LA, call me if you want to build an ADU in LA County or the surrounding areas. We're small, we're local, we're a small company, but I really, really cherry pick my projects. I make sure they're really, really nice. And I'm still young. I'm still excited. I'm excited to build other ADUs in LA and in the area.
You have a lot of enthusiasm. You mentioned that people should follow you on your various socials. Could you tell us specifically what those names are for those social accounts so that they can follow you?
Instagram, it's Joseph Peretz. YouTube is Joseph Peretz. Facebook is Joseph Peretz. TikTok, it's Tiny Man, Tiny Homes. And if you just Google Joseph Peretz, you'll find me. LinkedIn and TikToks and all the Facebooks.
And what's your phone number where people can reach you, or an email address?
Phone number 818-300-2666. You'll get rerouted to the office. And if you want to email us about ADUs, it's neobuildersadu@gmail.com.
And I'll be sure to kind of put that into the description. Thank you very much for that, Joseph. This has been a pleasure. I've been looking forward to this conversation for a very long time, because as you've mentioned, and I can attest, Joseph is very active on social media. You should follow him. If you were thinking, if you have a glimmer of a thought about an ADU and a garage conversion, you will learn something from him, even though you may not be able to work with him because his project may not fit his parameters, but I can guarantee you will learn something. Joseph, until the next time that you and I have a conversation, I'm going to be looking forward to it. Congratulations on your upcoming wedding, and I wish you all of the success in the world. Thank you again for your time today.
Thanks for having me, David. Thank you.
All right, take care. Bye-bye.